In a failed solution that burned the ground, our protagonist Razel stood on a stone while examining the failed experiment, which if successful would have acquired him a super heavyweight sword which was on par with the density of the strongest sword in the world. However, now that this experiment failed, he would have to come up with another way to compete with the absolute beings he was not strong enough to fight against. Razel sighed as he decided to head to some city for now with his flight magic. He wished he wouldn't have to be alone on his missions, but unfortunately for him others weren't capable enough to accompany him, so they always made some excuses and ran away. Suddenly, some dimensional rift opened right in his way, and Razel stopped in surprise while thinking what the hell was it. He wondered if he made some sort of mistake in his flight magic, but it doesn't seem like it from the look of the magic circle. Then he figured it was more likely some space distortion. He got on alert because if this distortion started swallowing its surroundings, he would be in grave trouble. But right then, a hand came out of the rift in his direction. Razel was very puzzled. Then a beautiful woman slowly came out of the rift. Razel got a little nervous as he asked her who she was, to which she replied with an introduction of her being the summoning goddess Resha. Razel stayed silent for a few seconds, because he couldn't believe that woman just called herself a goddess, which means he should be careful. He coughed and asked her to elaborate what she was saying again. Goddess Resha apologized for incomplete information. Then she mentioned she was like a goddess from another world for his understanding, and she came here in this world in hopes of summoning a worthy hero. Resha explained wherever her traveling rift opens up, she appears in an area around the strongest person of that world. Razel found himself having a lot of information to process at the same time from witnessing a goddess summoning heroes like that, or he considered a possibility she might start some fairy tale. But even so, he could feel genuine magic out of this world in that rift, through which she seemed to have come closer than he expected, even though he had an anti-magic barrier of his own complexion around him. Razel stated he was indeed the strongest in this world, at least in terms of humans, and asked if he was supposed to just follow her as a hero. Razel had some motives that he might be able to get some help from her, so that he could defeat the absolute stronger beings than himself. The goddess Resha asked him if he was really willing to come with her, hearing which she began to happily thank him repeatedly. Razel asked her what he had to do now, and she instructed Razel would have to just follow the king's orders and defeat the demon lord. Razel got that part clear, after which goddess Resha asked him if he was ready to follow her to another world. Razel agreed to her, and she placed her hand on the rift, which reacted and started taking Razel's whole body within it as if he was being devoured. He was a little startled at first, then after thinking that one needs to take risks in order to grow, he calmed down and closed his eyes as Razel got summoned to another world. Once he was there, Razel opened his eyes and found himself in the royal courtroom of the human king of this world. Razel observed his surroundings, and this world didn't seem all that different as he expected. It was when the king stood forward and greeted the new summoned heroes with a warm welcome while mentioning he was pleased to have them here. Meanwhile, Razel looked around and realized he wasn't the only one who got summoned. He glanced at the other 3 summoned heroes and noticed the king confirming with his minister if these 4 were surely heroes that were summoned this time. Razel was still not finding this place meaningful, and he could tell from one look that the other heroes were pretty weak to be considered heroes, making him wonder if they were truly best of their worlds. Razel was about to take a look at their statuses, then the minister Regi stepped up to inform the heroes about this world. Razel stopped and thought he should listen to this guy first, so from what he heard, Razel learned that the beings of this world were divided into 3 different groups: humans, demons, and demi-humans. Razel figured it wasn't that much different from his world. Then Minister Regi continued to state that the biggest problem for them were the demons, because humans and demons have been at war for a long time, but recently the demons' influence had started to increase at an alarming rate, so humans need to take action before demons rule the world, and for that very purpose they summoned 4 heroes from Frodo, Riol, Banza, and Razel. From this explanation, Razel figured it was just like hunting demons back then, and at that time, Razel actually defeated monsters as training, and countries all around the world started thanking him. Thus now, the minister bowed down to the request of heroes to lend them their strength to defeat those demons, in return for which they would prepare a lifetime of rewards for heroes. Frodo, Riol, and Banza were excited by the mention of rewards, while Razel didn't seem to be that interested in it. Now the minister said they would be testing the combat capabilities of the heroes, for which they would have to put their hands on the crystal ball one by one. Razel assessed the crystal ball, which was an appraiser that detects the magic power and turns it into numbers. Razel already had the appraisal ability himself. The hero Riol first stepped forward saying he would be the first one to be appraised, so he placed his hand on the ball, and it started glowing brightly. The minister was surprised by the glow and immediately checked the crystal for numbers of combat power, which turned out to be a shockingly good 40.97. King and others present in the place were showing impressive expressions, but Razel didn't fathom why those numbers were good for these guys. After that, it was Frodo's turn next, and he had an amazing combat power of 36.64, while Banz's numbers were also incredible with 37.76 combat power. Minister was incredibly pleased with the results of these heroes' combat powers. Then he asked the last one remaining, Razel, to come forth to check his combat power. Razel didn't think he should use the crystal, but he did so anyway, and the other heroes' eyes fell upon him as they were curious about his power. However, at Razel's turn, the appraiser crystal did not react at all, and he told the minister there seemed to be some trouble. The minister Regi quickly came forward and apologized for the inconvenience of the crystal. However, when he looked into the crystal numbers, he was astounded because it was showing 0 number. Razel asked what was wrong, and Minister Regi claimed the crystal seemed to be malfunctioning, and he would get it working right away. He asked Razel to place his hand one more time, and when the minister checked the results, he revealed to everyone the number of combat power of Razel was 0. King was furious upon hearing that, and the minister guaranteed that the crystal wasn't broken, so the results were correct. Razel tried to tell them that the appraiser crystal seemed to be not working, but before he could finish, the king shouted right away for Razel to get out. He declared that Razel won't be recognized as a hero with the 0 he got, so Razel must get out of the castle this second. Razel desperately tried to prove that 0 was an error and suggested he would show them that he could use magic. Razel thought of what to show these guys, then he noticed the pieces of coal in some distance. He called for everybody's attention to have a look at this coal, after which he casted a high-level spell called Atom Reconstruction that requires a minimum combat power of 7,000 to turn that piece of coal into diamond. He figured it was perfect to show off his magic power, but the minister didn't seem to think of it as anything other than weird even if he turned coal into diamond. Razel asked them if it was good enough to make them understand that he could use magic, but the king complained about the use of something like this, and yelled out that something like a spell that turns coal into diamond doesn't exist in this world, means this diamond was a fake one. Razel was left speechless, and he reasoned this spell was quite common, at least in his world. But the king had enough, so he quieted Razel and called him a useless scammer as he again ordered him to get out of this castle at once. Other heroes made fun of Razel and called him poor soul for trying to get someplace by lying with a fake diamond. Razel turned to the goddess for help since she must definitely know this spell, but even the goddess looked at him with pity. Razel felt betrayed because he was now deemed as a scammer for no reason, and the king went as far as to call for soldier guards on him to get Razel out. Razel didn't show any opposition since they were humans, while the king ordered Razel to be exiled and never to show his face to the king ever again. After some time in the city, the square didn't seem to be that busy with people, and a few people, like a mother and a child, were passing when the little girl asked what was the man sitting with his head covered doing. The mother took her child away, asking her not to be involved with weird strangers, while this stranger was currently trying to figure out what he should do now. Razel was directly kicked out of the castle just like that, and he couldn't believe they got him like that. Now he can't even return back home. It was when Razel thought of something and decided to change pace and just take action on what he should be doing from here on. For now, his priority was to learn more about this world, so he went to a weapons and tools workshop which buys and sells items. Upon his entry, the dealer greeted him and mentioned he seems to be a new face. Razel showed him the diamond and asked if he could buy it. The dealer recognized the diamond and also noticed it was a really beautiful one. He asked Razel if he got it from a jewel shop, and he answered it was artificially made. Razel asked if there was a shop that works with artificial jewels, upon hearing which shopkeeper asked annoyingly if Razel was messing with him because he never heard of an artificial diamond. Razel seriously suggested it could be used as an abrasive or a cutter, hearing which the shopkeeper asked what was he even saying, because one would rather live off 10 years after selling that diamond at a jewel shop instead. Razel was sure now that people of this world still haven't created artificial diamonds, so the shopkeeper suggested to him to just go to a jewel shop already. However, Razel needed some money fast, so he didn't want to waste any more time, and so he asked the shopkeeper if there were any inns around this area, along with their costs. Shopkeeper replied it would be around 10,000 pi per night, from which Razel got an idea of the amount he needs at minimum. He told the shopkeeper that since he needed some money fast, he would sell this diamond for 70,000 pi. Shopkeeper, more amazed than before, asked just what sort of charity was Razel doing here, but Razel just didn't want to be thought of as a scammer. The shopkeeper found it hard to believe and thought he might get smitten at this rate, after which Razel thought about it for a second and suggested that since he needed money right now, he could take a deposit of 70,000 pi first. The shopkeeper could see Razel seemed to have a lot on his shoulders, so he agreed to this deal and Razel managed to earn some money from this world. He bid farewell to the shopkeeper afterwards, and now with some money his burden was not at least about where to stay. However, since there seemed to be no alchemy in this world, he would have quite a lot of trouble earning and also learning about the currency for each and everything. Later in the downtown district at Marie's Inn, Razel got a room to rest for the night while thinking just why he ended up here. Now that he could rest a little, he decided to reassess his current situation, from how the goddess from another world summoned him here, which might actually be just a transfer magic named summoning to another world, and from what he observed so far, the magical development of this world seemed to be way too different from his world. He suddenly got up thinking about it again if it was really another world, in which case he quickly used his resource magic to find out what kind of materials would show up. And just as expected, he found differences in laws of physics and even materials he had never seen before. Razel lay back down, accepting this harsh reality, and he assumed that the king must have exiled him outside out of her expectations. But either way, it propelled him to consider if defeating the demon lord would satisfy the goddess to send him back to his world. Although he wondered just what was a demon lord in the first place, because all he could remember about demons were just dangerous demons with no particular monarchy back in his world, and here there seemed to be one. He sighed as he accepted it was indeed different from how his world worked, and thought if the demons here had intelligence to adhere to monarchy. It seems that the demon lord of this world might not really be evil if they trust one of them as lord. However, he still knows too little regarding the state of affairs of this world, and he has some sort of feeling that he won't get any support from humans since he got exiled. Thus Razel got an idea, and he decided to meet the demon lord. He wondered if he could use his magic the same as in the previous world, so firstly he tried to initiate his storage magic, which worked pretty well. Razel brought out his recon satellite, which would fly into the sky to survey the ground's surface via satellite image. It seemed to be working well even in this world, so he programmed it with magic to create a map of the path to what seems like the demon lord's castle, while he sleeps for the night. Next morning, he woke up to the sound of birds chirping in the sky along with bright sunlight. Razel realized he might have been more tired than expected to have overslept a little like that. Then his eyes fell on the recon satellite, which had finished printing an accurate map. Razel collected the map in his storage magic, and suddenly he sensed a presence nearby him. He decided to verify who it could be, so he used high detection magic and saw there were some suspicious people around keeping an eye on him. He confirmed there were 5 of them, then used transmission magic to hear what they were speaking amongst each other. Razel heard those guys confirming him to be the target, which gave him a rough idea of these guys being the assassins sent by the king. Razel walked out of the inn, and those assassins became active after seeing him come out and confirm their target. Razel could still hear them, and he realized that somehow he made an enemy out of the king. In the meantime, the assassins took their positions according to the plan to assassinate their target Razel, and bring back his head as evidence. Razel, who heard their plan, got an idea and decided to use this chance to his advantage. The assassins quickly proceeded with their plan, and one of them used a small pike to shoot a poison needle. Razel could feel it coming, and just at the right time, he applied defensive magic in the fraction of a second to block that needle, after which he pretended to be hit by it and dropped down as if he died, which made the assassins think they have successfully assassinated the target and now had to bring back the head. But just when one of them almost touched Razel, he activated swift movement magic along with lightning magic, through which he moved faster than those assassins and hit their necks in a way they would collapse without dying. He just wanted to make them sleep for a little bit, and during that time he opened the storage and brought out a multifunctional cell that was basically like a clone. He was glad to have this handy because of his habit to make high combat ability clones, and here right now, even if it couldn't copy his abilities, Razel figured it could at least pretend to be his corpse. He formed an exactly similar clone that looked like him, then dressed it as himself and left it on the same spot he pretended to have fallen. Razel was finished here, and he expected the rest to be taken care of by those assassins when they woke up, while he stretched his hands and prepared himself to head straight to the place where the demon lord lives. After some time, the assassins slowly regained consciousness, and they began wondering what happened to all of them. Other assassin replied he wasn't sure either. Then they quickly remembered about the target they assassinated and checked to see what happened to it. They confirmed again with his corpse that he was dead, and now without wasting any more time, the assassin swung around his blade and beheaded Razel's head, or more precisely the head of his clone. After collecting the head, they prepared to head back right away and left the corpse of Razel's clone on the ground just as it was. Meanwhile, around the place where the demon lord's castle was, Razel just arrived at the gates, and she observed the demon lord's castle from one glance. There were also demon guards on the gates, so he politely walked up to them, and the guards were perplexed by this sight, and they immediately stopped him. They asked what business he got here, to which Razel replied he wanted to talk with the demon lord. The demon guards looked into each other's eyes, then yelled at Razel to not screw with them because no way would they let a human see the demon lord just because he wanted to talk. Razel raised his hands to show he wasn't hostile and said sorry for the sudden visit. He requested to make an appointment if it was possible. But that raised the guards' suspicions even more, as they don't get why the crap would a human want to make an appointment with the demon lord in the first place. And judging by his clothes, they could tell Razel was a summoned hero. Razel agreed that he was indeed a summoned hero, but he was also exiled by the king. The guards found it questionable. Then Razel added that he was almost assassinated by the agents sent by the king this morning too, making their reactions more surprising. Razel told them he might be human, but with what happened to him so far should give them an idea that he wasn't on the side of humans, and it won't be weird if he sided with Demon Lord either. The guards only poked their spears closer to him, as they argued that once in the past there was another summoned hero who pretended to be a friend but betrayed them. So the guards won't be falling for the same trick again. Razel found it troublesome if that strategy was used on these demons before. Then he would have to change his approach and ask the guards if the top of their demon castle was really covered with a pathetic teleportation magic obstructing barrier. The guards were surprised by that at first, but one of them shouted they couldn't just let a human insult the precious barrier casted by their demon lord. Other guards tried to quiet him down, but this much was enough for Razel, so he thanked them for letting him know where their demon king was. The first demon guard was troubled because they messed up just now, while the other demon dared Razel to try teleporting past that barrier if he could. Razel took up the offer, and he immediately casted a teleportation magic, which wasn't that high level since he didn't think he would need it. After that, he saw the demon guards off while they stood there beating themselves up about if this guy really will teleport there. Razel vanished from their eyes the next instant, and they wondered what that was just now. Meanwhile, Razel traveled through the teleportation magic and soon arrived within the castle. He walked around a bit and thought since he was in the demon lord's room, he should be confronting the demon lord soon. At the same time, a scared voice of a woman came asking him just who was her, and how in the world he managed to enter this castle. She was clearly frightened upon seeing an intruder, and she also happens to be the demon lord of this world. Razel assessed she had about 100 times more magic power than the demons at the gate, and she also had a decent amount of strength, although he kept looking at her in silence until she yelled out why was a human here, and how he managed to pass through her anti-teleportation barrier. Razel asked her to confirm if she was the demon lord, upon hearing which she gulped and answered she was indeed the demon lord. She asked him who he was and what was his purpose for coming here. Razel firstly apologized for passing through her barrier without asking, and he made sure to pass through without damaging it. She remarked the simple fact he was able to pass through that barrier was already ridiculous, and she stepped down the throne while trying to think what this man was trying to do. Razel elegantly placed his hand on his chest and introduced himself to the demon lord, stating how he was originally summoned to this world as a hero, but he was exiled due to some circumstances, and now was on neither the side of humans nor demons' side at the moment, and he came here today to ask the demon lord about this world. Thus he asked one more time to confirm if she was the demon lord. The demon lord started emitting a murderous aura as she let out a tempted voice questioning how dare a summoned hero come here to ask questions, which was like messing around with her as he pleased. She triggered an attack spell at him, only then Razel realized he chose the wrong method to get through to her. But firstly he had to deal with this incoming attack, so he just raised one finger and cancelled it out as if it was nothing. The demon lord Nulsha repeated another attack right away, and Razel found himself in trouble, not because of her incoming attacks, but he didn't have any proof to show to her that he was really rejected by the king. He shattered Nulsha's attack again, and she gave it to him for being quite competent. Razel tried thinking what he should do, then he noticed some sounds of incoming reinforcement. The ones entered the room were Demon Lord's royal guards, and they asked Nulsha who was this man cashing trouble. Nulsha warned them to be careful as her attacks don't have any effect on this man, while Razel analyzed those royal guards and noticed they had about 80% power of this demon lord. The male royal guard named Jeek was astounded to hear Nulsha's attacks didn't work on him, while the other royal guard Serena declared they would risk their lives solely to eliminate this man. Razel was considering it would be better if he gave up on proving he was harmless and fought back, but that might become a declaration of war to the demon lord, so he wanted to avoid that. So he decided to use the other method which might come off as a threat, but since there was no other way, he raised his hand to show his overwhelming power to make these guys believe it would be better for them to talk it out peacefully. He unleashed strong magic currents, which went and slashed the necks of royal guards, seeing which the demon Lord Nulsha shouted their names out of concern. However, while their necks were still cut, Razel used recovery magic right away to heal those two back to how they were, as if they were never cut. Jeek and Serena were left extremely confused about what just happened to them, as they were certain that they died. Even Nulsha could see they were truly killed, then revived right in an instant, and Razel mentioned it wasn't that great of a deal to cut the necks of demons, but even so it was never his intention to kill the two of them. Nulsha still didn't get the part of their necks cut. Then Razel remarked they were just overreacting, because he believed that demons won't die just because their heads went flying, like the way it was in his world. Nulsha, however, exclaimed he was weird to be saying that, and said to have never witnessed a demon survive after losing their head. Razel still didn't believe it easily and mentioned the demon lord must have been too engaged in politics to have forgotten that. Serena raised her voice, claiming that Her Majesty was the demon lord because she was the strongest, not because of some politics. Nulsha quieted her down and mentioned it was obvious that this man in front of them was beyond their sense of common knowledge, so they should stop with the unnecessary utterances. Jeek and Serena obeyed the demon lord's commands, after which Nulsha approached Razel and said if he was here to gather information, she would answer everything he wished to know. Razel was glad to see she finally felt like answering, but Serena found it dangerous because they couldn't be sure whether this man was an enemy or not. Nulsha laughed it off and said even if that were the case, she won't have much choice than just give up. Serena and Jeek couldn't speak up any further as it might come out like taking their demon lord's words lightly, while Nulsha stated they shouldn't resort to fighting just yet when there seemed to be hope in talking it out. And besides, she had a feeling that this man would become an ally if they talk it out properly. Now then, she asked Razel to proceed with his questions, and he felt like things were settled enough now for the conversation to happen. Jeek and Serena stayed quietly and bowed down to Her Majesty to show their respect for her and her decisions. Now in the demon lord's room, there were only Nulsha and Razel, with her sitting on the throne and telling him to start his questions or what he required. Razel thanked her for the cooperation, then asked her if the human race was really about to be dominated by the demons. Nulsha denied it, saying it was all wrong, and when he asked how much of it was wrong, she replied that everything Razel had heard actually was not right at all, because firstly, these demons have not grown in firepower in hundreds of years, and rather than growing stronger, it would be more accurate to say they've been getting weaker. And as for the part of ruling over humans, it was actually the opposite, with humans being the ones forcing demons with unfavorable conditions. She handed over a scroll to Razel as a proof, and when he asked her what it contained, she replied it was an original contract between humans and demons. Razel could feel the king's magic from the scroll, and asked her if she was sure he could reel something like that. Nulsha agreed without any hesitation. Then Razel opened the scroll and saw the tree which said if any humans were to commit a crime in demons' borders, they would be judged by the laws of humans, but humans won't be charged with any responsibility if something were to happen to the demons in human areas. Razel couldn't help but question how could they even form such an unreasonable contract, to which Nulsha replied with the story that a few generations ago, the previous demon king was killed by the hero, and it had always been the case for the strongest demon lord even if they didn't do anything wrong, because humans didn't want there to be anyone stronger than their hero for their own greed and safety. And if the demons were not to abide by the unreasonable conditions they placed upon them, the hero would come to kill Nulsha and take her throne by force. Her sad expression could be understood by Razel, and he wondered why did the goddess summon them if she already had such a powerful hero, or was it like summoning a new hero every time another one dies? He asked Nulsha if that hero she was scared of was still alive, to which she replied that she would have destroyed the contract if only it wasn't for that hero. Razel questioned them why he was summoned here. Then she asked if he wasn't exiled from there. Razel asked them what about it, to which she replied he was lucky to have barely escaped death. Razel was confused on suddenly hearing that he was summoned here as a sacrifice. There was a moment's silence before Razel asked her how he was a sacrifice, and asked her to explain in detail about it. She wasn't interested at first to bring up that painful story of her past, then told him that 600 years ago, it was about the time of the first hero summoning. Apparently, at that time, the hero was nowhere near as strong, because of which he was no match even against the 4 demon generals which were Jeek and Serena's parents. Razel could get a gist of how strong they must have been after looking at those two, after which she explained that all heroes that came after that were pretty much the same. So the higher-ups from humans were extremely discouraged and ordered the goddess to bring a stronger hero. Razel claimed now everything made sense from the start, but then the surprised demon lord asked him how he understood everything. Razel wondered how a person from this world could manage to make a magic tool this advanced, so he confirmed with Melsha if the goddess made that magic tool. She agreed to it, and said the combined hero who got stronger with the tool was so much stronger than the demon lord during that time, that the humans forced unfavorable conditions on the demons and continued to summon more heroes. They summon heroes to have them fight the demons of this world, and when they have grown near their limits, they would let the combined hero absorb them. They continued to repeat that process until the combined hero grew leagues stronger than it was back then. So basically, she simplified it as just the king's way of thinking that since a stronger demon lord could appear any time, they would also make a stronger hero. Razel could imagine all that, and with this Melsha concluded it was everything. Razel got pretty much whatever he needed to know, and if this was the truth, then his enemies were the goddess and that combined hero. He didn't expect that the reason he came here was to do a favor to the goddess, but she turned out to be making him into a sacrifice. Now there won't be any favors for her, and the first thing he wanted to do was to test Melsha's story. Melsha didn't mind him doing that, thus Razel activated scanning through his satellite's analysis. Melsha could see he was doing some sort of detection magic, but wasn't sure how, while Razel got the map of the royal castle and saw the presence of people in there according to their powers. And there he found the traces of the combined hero in place, which means the demon Lord Melsha was telling the truth. Whereas Melsha was more eager to know how he was able to scout the palace, to which he replied it was easy enough as long as he had some tools for analyzing. She backed off from understanding any further since it seemed to be some high-level stuff, although she didn't think if he had this then he would have even needed her to know the answers to his questions. However, Razel stated if it weren't for her, he wouldn't have thought of searching the palace for the combined hero, so in fact he would never have known about himself becoming a sacrifice. So he was thankful to her for the intel, and she mentioned it was nothing. Now Razel's next plan was to somehow corner the goddess and make her think she has no choice but to send him back to his world. He wondered what would be the best method to trouble that damn goddess, and it seems that combining heroes could work, but he also wanted to thank Demon Lord Melsha for the intel. It was then a brilliant plan came up in his mind, and he called out Demon Lord and asked her with a grin if she wanted to beat that combined hero with her own hands. Melsha's expression grew stiff, and she replied that the combined hero was the start of the unfavorable contracts and the murderer of her ancestors, so it was her lifetime wish to defeat him, so it was obvious that she wanted to kill that bastard with her own hands. Upon hearing that, Razel came to a decision which left Melsha puzzled, as he told her that he would personally guide her. He promised to make her strong enough to surpass that combined hero. Melsha asked why he was willing to go that far, to which he replied that he just wanted to go back to his own world, for which reason he had to think of a way to corner that goddess into negotiation. Melsha got the part he was doing this because there was something in it for him too, but she wasn't sure where to even start to get as strong as that combined hero. Razel informed her that currently that combined hero was only about 1/5 of Razel's own strength, and it was also a level that she could reach even with just sheer effort. She was amazed after hearing that the combined hero was just 1/5 of Razel's power. Razel then mentioned since Melsha was the strongest of her race he would assure this plan would work out. She was tempted by the offer and accepted if he was willing to go so far for her. She would like to request him to teach her. Razel figured she had made her choice, and they shook hands with him mentioning to be counting on her too. He told her to prepare as they would go about it in Spartan style, and she requested him to do it in moderation. She was worried how this teaching was going to occur, so Razel asked her if there was a place where he could train her. Melsha got lost in thoughts, while Razel said they would be doing a simulation to see her current level. Melsha thought about it and said there was a place a few kilometers from here. She pointed it out on the map he showed her, after which Razel asked her to hold on tight to him. She questioned him if they were really going to fly with them this close, to which he agreed, and without listening to her plead to stop it, Razel already activated teleportation magic, and while she wasn't ready, they flew off to the place for doing the training. Razel and Melsha arrived at an empty arena, and she first vomited because that experience was just too much for her. Razel apologized for it, and she said it was nothing since she was used to being surprised by him now. She questioned him what was the magic item he set up behind them, to which he replied it was a tool for a phantom world, and it would make people outside its area think as if Razel and Melsha were only doing healthy exercises. She didn't get what was the point of it, and he mentioned she would prefer to be seen instead of keeping her losses private inside this place. She thanked him for being considerate, but this kind of pisses her off, after which he told her if she has time to talk then, it means she must be ready to fight any time now. Melsha agreed and warned him before sparring that she would be going all out. Razel already wanted her to do that exactly, and with this, he started the sparring against Demon Lord Melsha right away. Now Melcia prepared a defensive attack first while wondering how Razel was going to attack so that she could stop it. But suddenly, he vanished out of her sight and she was left shocked because even if she tried to find him, she could sense his mana spreading around the air, but she still couldn't hit him without knowing exactly where he was. She prepared herself for the moment he would have to stop at one spot to attack, and suddenly she sensed something right behind her and reacted to it by casting a barrier. But before she could fully cast the barrier, Razel hit her with something like a ball on the head, and she couldn't help but notice Razel was going easy to be using a sports ball. She still didn't expect it to be this much. Then she heard Razel's voice through telepathy that the ball was going to vanish to attack her in 3 seconds, so she should try dodging it. Melcia was in haste to quickly react next time. Then Razel told her that he was only using body strengthening magic in this spar. This got her anger to reach the peak, while Razel playfully said he would look forward to seeing the Demon Lord being serious. Melcia declared she would dodge the next one for sure, and Razel liked the determination, but that alone couldn't protect her from the next attack that hit from behind on head. The training went for a while, and by this time, Melcia finally managed to block the ball, but even though she could block it now, Razel was still going on, and next time he stated he would be testing her magic power, so be instructed to use whatever she wanted on him. Melcia looked around and noticed Razel moving around a little, but she didn't know for sure if she got used to it, or he dropped his speed for this one. But in any case, she focused on accuracy of her attack, after which she casted 5 magic circles at once to attack in various directions. Razel guessed he might have to raise a simple barrier to dodge this one, and to his surprise, Melcia managed to unleash an attack in a very short time than expected and caught him a little off guard. Her attack caused a huge explosion, but she knew it wasn't enough to take him down and asked how it was. However, Razel was somewhat astounded to see that she actually managed to damage his barrier. After the dust settled down, Melcia questioned Razel how her performance was, but right then she yielded on the ground on her knees out of exhaustion. Whereas Razel was amazed she actually broke his barrier, since Ohm would need quite the amount of mana to destroy a 3-dimensional barrier with 2-dimensional magic, and he was sure that he didn't raise a weak barrier, so it made it unbelievable that she overcame the gap by just putting in enough mana. He went and offered her hand to assist standing up. Then she accepted it and stood up while mentioning that she finally hit him. Razel told her it was really great, while inside he wondered just how much firepower this Demon Lord could display with stronger magic. Next up, he told her to try destroying a barrier, but she immediately asked for a break to recompose himself. After the break, she asked him what it was about the barrier, and Razel told her that he would now raise a barrier right now, and asked her to use her strongest magic to hit the barrier. She asked if using her full power would really be fine, and he assured it would be because the barrier he would make absorbs any attack. She couldn't fathom just how irregular this man was, but in any case she was open to using her full strength, so Melcia unleashed a powerful attack at Razel without holding back, and just like he said before, the barrier really absorbed her whole attack, leaving her standing still in shock. Once her whole attack was absorbed, Razel asked her if that was really all, and she asked annoyedly if he had a problem with it. She felt a little upset as he showed an expression of not being satisfied with her strength at all, even though he was the one who told her to use everything. Razel assured her it wasn't like that and she didn't need to feel down, and in any case he got one thing clear now. Melcia asked with a pouting face what was that, but before replying, Razel apologized for not asking her name until now. She nodded it was his fault at most, but she was at some fault too for not telling her name to him. She properly introduced herself as the Demon Lord Melcia, and asked him properly to help her out in defeating that combined hero. Razel thanked her for showing such sincerity, and told her again she doesn't have to feel down because in reality, she has extremely strong magic powers, but to enhance her techniques on magic, formations still need to be worked. What he said went over her head, so Razel explained again in a simpler way to think of it as mana capacity like a tank connected to a magic output like a house, and said if one were to press the end of hose, the pressure becomes stronger, and with this similar method, a human who is skilled in magic formations is able to use complicated spells and defeat even a dragon. Melcia now understood that and asked if she could get stronger by doing that as well, to which he replied she could indeed, but she would have to learn 3-dimensional magic first. However, she didn't know what it meant, leaving Razel in another surprise of just how underdeveloped this world's magic was. He explained the working of 3-dimensional magic compared to 2-dimensional magic, where she could basically use more magic however she liked. Razel nodded that was about right, then she asked how she would be able to use magic like that, since she couldn't even do simple magic like analyze. Razel mentioned that he couldn't use magic like that the moment he was born, so he had a method of training for it. She exclaimed at him to speak things like this first, and that aside she had one question from him, about why did he want to train her. Because his goal was to return to his own world, he could have just gone and killed that combined hero himself. Razel said he could have done that, but he had two reasons: because he wanted to show his gratitude for Melcha's intel and thank her for telling the truth, and the other reason was because he wanted to bring her to his world as his party member after making her stronger. Although he would take her only if she was fine with it, Melcha told him if he really meant that. Then Razel informed her that he also had an opponent he couldn't beat by himself, so he always needed a second hand in defeating that guy. So he wanted to recruit someone worthy, which was why he came to this world. Melcha asked if she could really face someone even a strong person like Razel couldn't defeat, to which Razel replied that he was confident after the sparring just now that she was the perfect person to join his team. But he was worried it might be impossible, considering her position as the Lord of Demons. However, Melcha replied she would go with him, and even though he was doing this to thank her, she felt like she was receiving his help for free, so she doesn't like owing favors and returning his favor by helping him in return. Razel thanked her for the return help, and he figured she was a kind soul and a reliable person too. Although she mentioned having something to ask him about, and told him that she has a younger sister around the same age as her, but she got inflicted with a mysterious illness and her body had been getting weaker ever since. She wished her sister could be the next demon lord after Melcha leaves with Razel, but at this rate she won't be fit for any combat-related duties. She asked him with hope if he could examine her sister, to which Razel replied that he wasn't an expert in treating medicals, but he would give it a try and couldn't promise. Melcha was happy from that response and said they should hurry back to her castle now. Razel agreed and told her not to vomit this time, making her feel embarrassed about it. After that, they headed back to the Demon Lord's castle. There Melcha took Razel to her sister Cecil, who was shocked by the sudden appearance of a teleportation circle in front of her and thought if they were attacked despite her sister Melcha's barrier. But when Melcha herself came out being carried by Razel and greeted her casually, Cecil got a little calm, but she still didn't get how a person entered this place with teleportation magic, and just who was that person behind her. Melcha smiled nervously and introduced Razel as a strong man from another world who destroyed her barrier like it was a piece of cake, and he possessed spells that could raise her magic like it was nothing. Razel asked Melcha if she wasn't embarrassed to be down talking about herself like that, and she admitted she was just a bit. Whereas Cecile understood overall that Razel was an incredible person, and Melcha told her the reason she brought him here was to check if he could cure her illness. Cecile seemed somewhat worried if it would really help, and Melcha assured her it would be fine, and if this guy couldn't cure it, it would still help a lot to know the cause of it. Cecile listened to her sister and agreed to be examined by him, seeing which Razel was glad that Cecile believes in Melcha. Now Melcha asked him to proceed with the examination, and he went to her and assured her not to be nervous and it would be fine in just a second. Cecile agreed with him, and he was very gentle to her during the testing, while Melcha was feeling odd about hearing back about her embarrassing moments. Later on, she came to know the name of disease Cecile had was hardened mana veins, which was a symptom where one has their mana flow interrupted within the body. Cecile asked if it would be a difficult illness to treat. Then Razel opened the storage and took out some pills saying this disease also existed in his world, and this medicine could cure it in a few days. Melcha asked in surprise if he was for real, as Razel gave Cecile the medicine and asked her to take it right now. Cecile looked at Melcha while not being sure what to do, and Melcha assured her they could believe in Razel. Cecile gulped and took the medicine in one go, after which she relaxed, but her sister Melcha immediately asked how she was feeling, or did the medicine work yet. Cecile replied it didn't feel any different, and Melcha scolded Razel for the medicine not working. He reminded her saying it would take a few days before, and to speed that up, Razel asked if he could advance Cecile's body for a few days. Razel skipped her body's timing for about a week, after which he asked how she was feeling. Cecile smiled and claimed it was amazing that she was feeling the flow of mana inside her completely different than before. Melcha asked if she was really feeling better, to which Cecile replied she was indeed better now, hearing which Melcha was so happy that she hugged her with tears of joy, while Razel was glad there was one problem off his list now. Chapter 6. After a while, Melcha was concentrated in her magic training, and after a lot of efforts, she managed to revert a vase back to its original minerals through magic. Razel praised her for being able to use high-level spells without breaking a sweat, and she was also amazed because it was her first time being able to use magic this easily. Other than that, she couldn't help but again feel happy about her sister finally being cured from her incurable disease. Razel assured her that was sure to happen with his medicine, and now Cecile would also be able to use magic smoothly like never before. Melcha asked him what he wanted to convey exactly. He explained it means that the medicine he used on Cecile could also make all her demon troops power up instantly. Melcha asked if that medicine could be mass-produced even in this world. He simply stated the fact that he published this medicine to the market for children living in a country of poverty, so for the same reason he has a lot left in his storage. Melcha said in short it was sitting idle in his storage, so in any case she was open to use any help she could get. Razel was glad he could be of help, and so Melcha instructed her royal guards to distribute this medicine to everyone. After that, Melcha, Cecile, and Razel sat down together to have a discussion and inform Cecile about Melcha becoming Razel's companion and going to another world. Razel explained it properly, but in response Cecile said that would be difficult, because Melcha was the strongest in this nation and everyone believes in her, and above all, Cecile would also feel lonely if her sister leaves like that. Razel couldn't argue on that since it makes sense, but then Cecile added if he did really need her sister, and if Melcha also likes to go, then she won't stop them. And with that being the case, she promised to work hard enough for her sister's share to manage things here. Razel was relieved to see she was quite reliable, but other than that he wanted to confirm if Cecile had any experience in governing like her sister. Cecile admitted it honestly that she doesn't have any experience. After hearing that, Razel figured he might have something that could be useful for her. He brought out a tool called Educational Simulator and informed her that with this tool, she would be able to obtain knowledge from all kinds of experts. Cecile didn't seem to understand what it meant, which put Razel in confusion. And by this time, Melcha came back after helping out with the distribution of medicines, and Cecile welcomed her back with a confused expression. Melcha asked her what was up, but right then Razel sneaked up behind Melcha and told her she came back at the perfect time. He sat her down and said he would be going to draw out her memories. Melcha replied without much thought that would be all right, but suddenly her smile vanished when she realized what he said and exclaimed, "Why take out her memories?" Razel assured her not to worry, and her memories won't disappear but just be copied by this educational simulator. He gave Melcha a device to put on her head, and she understood a little that this magic item would use her memories as teaching material for Cecile. Razel was glad she caught on quick, and Melcha put on the device while being surprised this was possible. It made her wonder just how strange Razel was, and he simply called it just a gap in civilizations of different worlds. Now Melcha was ready, and he activated the device that started copying Melcha's memories directly from her brain for a few moments. Cecile was concerned while the process was going on, and once the import process was completed, the device now became able to instruct through Melcha's memories. Melcha asked if it was over, and Razel nodded it was done, and could be used now. So he asked Cecile to press the red magic stone on the educational simulator, which activated the device's functions and a screen came up. They were excited by how it was going on, as the device instructed the user to answer as to how they would deal with situations that appear on the screen. Then a question appeared and Melcha recognized it was regarding last year's famine. Cecile chose to go with option 3, but the crisis didn't get any better, meaning her answer was wrong. Then she chose option 2, and this time the education simulator said that was the correct choice for this situation. Melcha boasted about how she implemented that solution during the famine with her wisdom, and Cecile acknowledged how wise her sister was. Now Razel told Cecile this would be how she would earn experience, and she also found this to be helpful. She gives her words to Melcha to do her best for the present nation, and make sure to have a bright future. Melcha smiled and patted her head, saying she would be relying on her regarding the nation. The next day, Melcha and Razel were together, and he asked if she was ready to proceed to the stage 2 of the training to surpass that combined hero. She affirmed she would be under his care for this training, after which she asked if it would be fine if they continue this training in her room. Razel told her not to worry about that, since they would be using a magic repeller which she found to have an oddly cute shape. Razel explained that this device repels magic in the room, making it a room with low magic density, for which it also reduces the magic inside a person as well. Melcha asked if it wouldn't affect one's body then, to which he replied that in the worst-case scenario one might die if left alone with this device in a room. Her scared reaction was cute to watch for him, as he laughed and assured her they won't be going that far. Melcha asked him what they were supposed to do with this thing, and he explained that she needed to prevent her magic from leaking from her body and control it with her own will. She found the idea of controlling her magic hard to imagine at first, so Razel simplified it further that if a complicated magic circle had any kind of flaw, it would be useless, so she needed to learn how to control her magic in the most delicate way. He asked her to go and try to light up the candle in its current condition, and she obeyed him and asked to watch her do it easily. but even after trying for a while, she couldn't stop her magic from disappearing. In that moment, Nelsha felt her pride as a demon lord be oppressed, which pissed her off, and she was out to get this training part done with every ounce of focus on lighting up the candle. But she still failed and started crying while complaining that her magic keeps dissipating and nothing happens at all. Razel teased as she was already giving up, hearing Nelsha stop crying and claimed she wouldn't give in and try to do it until she could. Razel liked the spirit, and she bursted out with confidence that she would really do it. After some time, Cecile knocked on the door and Razel opened the door and saw that she brought breakfast for them. He made sure to let her know to be quiet, and when she glanced from his side, she noticed her sister trying her best to do something with the candle, but she beat herself up about failing every time. Cecile smiled and went forward with calm steps towards the table where Nelsha was at. Nelsha was still trying to figure out her drill, and Cecile also took a seat with an educational simulator. Razel made no sound and delicately placed the tea on the table while the girls continued their training. And after some time the candle finally lit up, from which Nelsha was extremely overjoyed by finally doing it. Razel admired this was peath good for her first time, and there was surely no magic leaking from the candle, and the fire wasn't going out despite the repeller as well. Nelsha boasted by repeating her words from back then, saying she would keep trying until she did it. However, now she was extremely tired after training for so long, and Razel told her that they would now switch to more complex magic. He asked her to let him know when she was ready to use attack magic, and he would teleport them to the arena. Nelsha asked him if he could teach her some anti-teleportation sickness magic first, and Cecile also decided to join them next time too. After 1 month when they were training at the arena, Razel set up the magic repeller and Nelsha practiced more complex magic spells until she mastered a good control over her magic. Razel passed her training in complex magic spells as well, and she properly cancelled the magic and claimed to have done well for this one in perfect sync and control. Razel complimented her progress for just a month, and she mentioned he must have something in mind for the next step as well. Razel liked how observant she was and told her that today he would have her learn more high-level magic, which he directly demonstrated by forming a wall in front of him. He told her the next step of learning would be solid magic, and she got the gist of it by looking at the wall he made. He described that this solid magic was the basic, where they stack upon multiple layers of flat surfaces to form a solid body. He explained the working for solid magic, which required it to be formed instantly, instead of building it one by one, which would be time-consuming and vulnerable to failure midway. Razel asked if she thought she could do it. Nelsha responded in affirmation, and she truly believed she could do it if she tried. She concentrated her magic power and controlled it with her thoughts to form a wall just like the one Razel showed before. While she was building it steadily, Razel was impressed by her concentration and details of the wall, and soon she managed to finish the wall. Razel analyzed it and remarked it was pretty decent for a first-timer, upon hearing which she boasted that was obvious since she was the Demon King after all. Razel said in that case he would be testing this wall made by the Demon King now. Nelsha was caught by surprise while Razel immediately casted an attack spell on the wall she made, and for the end results, she witnessed herself that the wall withstood the explosion and there was not a scratch on it. Razel told her this wall was much tougher than a flat surface barrier, and she found it amazing that she was the one who built it herself. Razel told her it was just solid magic, and said they should try adding some more layers to this barrier magic next. After some training, Nelsha managed to create 4 solid barriers around her at the same time, and it was perfect as well. She was impressed by her own skills, and Razel praised her work and passed the walls she made. She was feeling really good to see her training bore fruit, although it took a lot of concentration as well, leading to exhaustion to pile up. Razel used some healing magic on her, while stating she did well in this short amount of time. Next up, he told her they would be practicing magic control and the application of solid magic from tomorrow. He asked if she needed a break, but she refused to take any breaks until she had mastered it. She feels like not having the luxury to take it easy, which one thing Razel admired a lot about her. He let her know beforehand that he was going to be a little harder on her next time, and she nervously braced herself for it. After some time passed, Nelsha took a break from training to come over to carry out one of her duties as Demon Lord. Razel followed her and asked while looking at the scene ahead if that was the duty she talked about, which turned out to be her nation's food storage, the Demon Farmlands. Razel liked the look from this high spot and asked her if it must have been hard to maintain farmland of this scale. She agreed it was indeed hard because it rarely rains on this land, which was why the Demon Lords have to cast rain shower spells here on this farmlands for generations. Razel could understand how straining of a task it could be to rain on this massive field, and he assumed she mustn't have brought him here only to show him this. Nelsha smirked and said he was right, and said she wanted to try multi-layer magic with rain shower spells to make an efficient rain this time. He asked her if she prepared the structure of that spell, to which she agreed, but since this would be her first time using it, she wasn't sure if she could execute it well. Razel understood she wanted him to keep an eye on him, and she added in a sly manner that she wouldn't want to drag her people into a magic explosion, so she brought him here as safety. Razel was impressed to see she was using her training for her duties, which showed as much she wanted to improve, while Melsha was feeling really embarrassed to be trying something new in front of her people. Now, firstly, he asked her to let him have a look at her spell structure. Melsha happily agreed to show it to him and prepared the rain shower spell structure without actually activating it. Razel analyzed the structure of the spell, along with effects of fertilizer, nutrition, and faster growth. He smiled after examining it and asked her to show him this self-made spell of hers, and assured if anything goes wrong, he would immediately tell her what changes are needed. Melsha calmed down and thought it was just like training, so she activated the rain shower spell for real and focused her mana the way she learned over training. Razel could see everything was fine from the magic circle, structure, and mana amount. He had to admit she had such a scary talent, and that put aside, he told her to go on and activate the spell now. Melsha was still a bit clumsy, but she composed herself and raised her hand above to unleash the rain shower spell at a larger scale than ever. The rain poured down on the fields, crops, and the demons who live here witnessed the awaited demon lord's blessed rain of this year. They also noticed the magic circle this year was so big, for which they were truly thankful to their demon lord Melsha. Whereas Melsha was pleased to see the happy smiles on the faces of her pupils. Then she realized she must not get full of herself, and turned to ask Razel how she did, to which he replied it was perfect and the harvest this year would be record-breaking. Hearing that means so much to Melsha that her knees collapsed from happiness and she cried tears of joy because she was truly glad how it went. Razel remembers that she didn't shed even a single tear during her training, whereas Melsha described the reason she was so happy was because now they won't have to rely on those overpriced trades from the humans anymore. She felt embarrassed to cry in front of someone, but this time it couldn't be helped, while Razel was shocked upon hearing that even demons' food was ripped off by those humans. She admitted that was the case for quite a while, and only then Razel realized Melsha and her demons would have been in such deep trouble if he came a second later. Melsha thanked him for siding with her after arriving here, because now her people could have a full stomach. In that moment, Melsha might have been the happiest she has ever been in the last few decades, and Razel could feel her happiness and said he would look forward to harvest. She exclaimed that she couldn't wait to see the faces of those human traders, while the demons were lively over having a good rain this year. After some time in the human royal capital, the king was extremely furious when he saw the sales reports and saw that they were 95% lower on sales this year. The finance minister confirmed that was right, and the king shouted at him not to mess around and asked what was happening. The finance minister informed him that the merchants who went to the demon territory found out that demons' self-sustainability rate was over 100%, and they said they don't need their trades anymore. The king bit his nail in anger, which clearly showed he was upset, and the finance minister recalled having heard that once an official was executed because he upset the king. For now, the king checked with the minister that those 3 heroes were well equipped, and after hearing confirmation from the minister, the king ordered them to send the heroes to attack the demon lord's city. The minister made a concerned look, while the king added the instructions to kill some demons and threatened the demon lord to add a condition to the contract of trades that they must have to buy the same amount of trades forever. The minister expressed his opinion that the current heroes were not strong enough to fight the demon lord, and it would be a huge hurdle just to have them go and come back in one piece. The king already knew that much, but the reason he insisted it was to imply the treaty that said the demons shall not kill any summoned hero. The minister didn't expect the king to be targeting that, because it means that the king had furiously decided to force the demons to break the contract by killing the summoned heroes so that he would have a reason to send the combined hero to face them. It was like the upcoming declaration of an all-out war between humans and demons. The minister expressed his concern that summoned heroes wouldn't be able to fuse with the combined hero if they die. However, the king still ordered that since the demons were stupid, he wanted to bring them down first to raise his sales, which were more important than the death of 1 or 2 summoned heroes. The king then ordered them to go away and carry out orders, and they had to leave with those orders. Meanwhile, the king was looking forward to the destruction of demons as he looked at the treaty, and despite whatever methods the demon lord used to improve their situation, the king didn't tolerate the demons getting any better than before or have a chance to disobey him in future. At the same time, the summoned hero Banza overheard something about invading the demon capital. He eavesdropped on the king's conversation and came to hear about having the demons kill the heroes and then send the combined hero to wage an all-out war against demons. Banza didn't understand everything about what the king said, but he had a bad feeling about this, as if he was going to be used for something. Banza proceeded to walk while thinking he must have misunderstood, since they would have died long ago if the king wanted to kill them, but still his steps came to a standstill from the suspicion that the king wanted to kill the summoned heroes, including him. He smiled awkwardly and thought he might be thinking too much and brushed it off his mind for now. Meanwhile, around the same time, Razel took Demon Lord Melsha to a deserted place for the next simulation battle. When she asked for the reason behind it, he replied that since her skills have improved to the next level beyond what they used to be, there was a chance the arena might be destroyed if they trained there. Also, he asked her if she didn't want to go all out, to which she replied there was no reason not to go all out now and she was ready for it. Razel told her this time she won't have to pull any punches, and she also prepared to go all out as she charged an insanely powerful attack magic spear and shot all of the spears straight at Razel. Razel guessed a simple barrier wouldn't block all of them, so he casted a high-level iron barrier and blocked all the destructive magic spears. However, Melsha had already predicted he would block it, so she shot more magic spears from another direction, after seeing which Razel decided to change his strategy as well and casted magic counter that deflected all the magic spears pointed at him back to Melsha's direction. She was caught off guard by that and quickly dodged the arrows with flash steps. She managed to come out unscathed from the magic spears, and Razel decided to increase the difficulty by being on the offensive now. He created a little dark fog around them out of magic, which was supposed to numb the senses of the target. Melsha was struggling and she activated antidote magic, which made Razel glad to see she was observant as always despite the unexpected situations. But to his surprise, it turned out that Melsha wasn't just using antidote magic, but also preparing a counter against him, which caught Razel off guard as he didn't see it coming.